Right now, as you sit there, your mind is robbing you of your future. Every second you spend analyzing, reconsidering, weighing options for the 100th time, someone else is taking the action you're afraid to take. They're claiming the opportunity you're still thinking about. They're building the life you're still planning. Raise your hand if you've ever spent more time thinking about doing something than it would have actually taken to do it. Keep it up. Look around. This is the epidemic of our time. We've become a generation of perpetual planners, endless researchers, chronic overthinkers, who mistake mental motion for actual progress. The brutal truth is this: overthinking isn't careful consideration. It's not wisdom. It's not being thorough. Overthinking is fear dressed up as intelligence. It's procrastination wearing a suit and tie, carrying a briefcase full of perfectly reasonable excuses. Your life is happening right, not when you figure it all out, not when you have all the information, not when the conditions are perfect. Right now, while you're thinking, life is moving. While you're planning, opportunities are expiring. While you're preparing to be ready, people are winning. There's a moment in every person's life when they realize they have a choice, not the illusion of choice, not the endless menu of possibilities that paralyzes them, but a real choice, a binary decision that cuts through all the noise. A moment when they can either step forward into uncertainty or step backward into regret. I want to tell you about a woman named Sarah. 3 years ago, she had what she thought was a good job at a decent company. Every morning she'd sit in her car in the parking lot for 10 minutes before going inside, feeling this gnawing sense that she was meant for something more. She had an idea for a business, a clear vision of what she wanted to create. She'd researched it obsessively, she'd written business plans, she'd calculated risks and projected outcomes. She had spreadsheets for her spreadsheets. For 2 years she prepared. She read every book on entrepreneurship. She attended webinars. She networked. She saved money. She revised her business plans 17 times. She was so busy getting ready that she never got started. Then one Tuesday morning, something shifted. She was sitting in that parking lot, and she asked herself a question that changed everything. What if I spend the next 2 years the same way I spent the last 2 years? The thought terrified her more than any business risk ever could. She walked into her boss's office that day and gave her notice. No safety net, no perfect plan, no guarantee of success. She just decided. In that moment, she chose action over analysis, courage over comfort, possibility over security. Today, Sarah runs a thriving consulting firm with 12 employees. But here's what she'll tell you changed her life. It wasn't the business success. It was the moment she realized she could trust herself to figure things out as she went. The moment she discovered that clarity comes through action, not through thinking. What decision are you avoiding right now? Don't think about it. You know what it is. It's that thing that keeps nagging at you when you're trying to sleep. It's the conversation you need to have, the phone call you need to make, the application you need to submit, the boundary you need to set, the risk you need to take. You know what needs to be done. You've known for weeks, maybe months. You've analyzed it from every angle. You've weighed the pros and cons. You've sought advice. You've researched. You've planned. And now you're stuck in the quicksand of overthinking, sinking deeper with every passing day. Here's what happens when you overthink. Your brain starts creating problems that don't exist. It begins manufacturing obstacles that aren't there. It invents scenarios so terrifying that inaction seems like the only rational choice. Your mind becomes a horror movie theater, playing worst-case scenarios on repeat, until you're paralyzed by fears that exist only in your imagination. Meanwhile, the person who acts with 70% certainty beats the person who waits for 90% certainty every single time. Not because they're smarter, not because they have better information, but because they understand a fundamental law of life. Perfect conditions never exist. Perfect timing never arrives. Perfect preparation never ends. The cost of overthinking isn't just missed opportunities. It's deeper than that. Every time you choose analysis over action, you're training your brain to doubt your judgment. You're teaching yourself that you can't be trusted to make good decisions. You're programming yourself for hesitation as a default response to challenges. Think about the most successful people you know. How do they make decisions? They gather the essential information quickly. They consult with trusted advisors briefly. They consider the most likely outcomes realistically. Then they decide, fast. They know that a good decision made quickly beats a perfect decision made too late. But what about the risks? What about the what-ifs? What about failure? Here's the secret successful people understand. Failure isn't the opposite of success. Inaction is the opposite of success. Failure is just information. It tells you what doesn't work so you can find what does. But inaction tells you nothing. It teaches you nothing. It moves you nowhere. You want to know what real failure looks like? It's lying on your deathbed, thinking about all the things you meant to do, all the chances you almost took, all the dreams you almost pursued, all the words you almost said. That's failure. That's the only failure that matters. The person who starts a business and fails learns more in 1 year than the person who spends 5 years thinking about starting a business. The person who asks for the promotion and gets rejected knows where they stand and can make their next move. The person who never asks lives in perpetual uncertainty, creating elaborate fantasies about what might happen if they ever find the courage to try. How many decisions are you carrying around in your head right now? How much mental energy are you wasting on problems that could be solved with a single conversation, a single action, a single choice? Your brain isn't designed to be a storage facility for unmade decisions. It's designed to be a processing center for rapid response to life's demands. Every decision you delay is occupying valuable mental real estate. It's using up cognitive resources you need for creativity, for problem solving, for innovation. It's like having dozens of applications running in the background of your computer, slowing down everything else you're trying to do. Most people think they're being responsible by overthinking. They believe that more analysis leads to better outcomes, but research shows the opposite. Beyond a certain point, additional information doesn't improve decision quality. It just increases confidence in whatever decision you were already leaning toward. And while you're gathering that extra information, the world is changing. The opportunity is evolving. The window is closing. The highest performers across every field share one characteristic. They have systems for making decisions quickly. They know their values. They understand their priorities. They've predetermined their criteria for various types of decisions. So when a choice presents itself, they can evaluate it rapidly and move forward. What would happen if you trusted yourself? What would happen if you believed that you could handle whatever comes next? What would happen if you acted on the assumption that you're more capable than you think, more resilient than you know, more resourceful than you imagine? The person you're meant to become is waiting on the other side of that decision you're avoiding. Every day you delay is another day they have to wait. Every day you hesitate is another day of settling for less than you're capable of becoming. You don't need more information. You don't need better timing. You don't need perfect conditions. You need to decide. You need to act. You need to begin. The moment you make that decision, everything changes. Not because the external circumstances shift, but because you shift. The moment you choose action over analysis, courage over comfort, progress over perfection, you become a different person. You become someone who trusts their judgment, someone who faces uncertainty with confidence, someone who creates their own opportunities instead of waiting for them to appear. That person, the one who acts despite incomplete information, the one who chooses progress over perfection, the one who trusts their ability to figure things out along the way, that person has learned the most important lesson of success. Growth happens through action, not through analysis. Solutions emerge through doing, not through thinking. Confidence builds through experience, not through preparation. This is where your transformation begins, not in some future moment when you feel ready, not when you have more experience or more resources or more certainty. Right here, right now, with the decision you've been avoiding, with the action you've been delaying, with the choice to trust yourself enough to begin, because the foundation for everything else in your life, every achievement, every breakthrough, every moment of genuine satisfaction, it all starts with this simple recognition. You already have everything you need to take the next step. The question isn't whether you're ready. The question is whether you're willing to grow into readiness by taking action instead of waiting for it to arrive. Once you take that first step, once you choose action over endless analysis, something remarkable happens. You realize that success isn't about waiting for the perfect circumstances. It's about becoming the kind of person who creates opportunities, regardless of circumstances. Who here has ever planted a garden? Raise your hands. Good. Those of you who haven't, you're about to understand why the most successful people think like farmers. A farmer doesn't control the weather. He can't command the rain to fall or the sun to shine. He can't dictate the seasons or prevent storms. But he does something more powerful. He controls his response to conditions he cannot change. When spring arrives, he doesn't waste time complaining about last year's drought. He plants. When summer brings heat, he doesn't curse the intensity. He waters. When fall delivers harvest time, he doesn't procrastinate. He gathers. When winter forces rest, he doesn't resist. He plans for next year. The farmer succeeds not because he controls nature, but because he aligns his actions with natural patterns and focuses entirely on what he can influence. Your life operates exactly the same way. You cannot control what happens to you, but you have absolute control over what happens within you. You cannot dictate external events, but you can determine your internal responses. You cannot command circumstances, but you can cultivate character. This shift in focus, from external to internal, from what happens to you to what you make happen, this is where real power begins. Most people spend their entire lives waiting for external conditions to align. They wait for the economy to improve before starting their business. They wait for their boss to appreciate them before giving their best effort.
They wait for their spouse to change before working on themselves. They wait for motivation to strike before taking action. They're trying to succeed from the outside in, and it never works. Success works from the inside out. It starts with daily habits so small they seem insignificant, yet so consistent they become unstoppable. Let me show you the mathematics of transformation. If you improve by just 1% every day for 1 year, you don't end up 1% better. You end up 37 times better. 1%. That's reading 10 pages instead of 0. That's exercising for 15 minutes instead of sitting on the couch. That's making one prospecting call instead of making excuses.
But here's what trips people up. They want to see dramatic changes immediately. They start Monday morning with massive goals and unrealistic expectations. They try to transform everything at once. By Wednesday, they're overwhelmed. By Friday, they've quit. By the following Monday, they're looking for a new system, a better program, a different approach. The people who succeed understand something crucial. Small actions repeated consistently create massive results. They choose progress over perfection. They choose consistency over intensity. They choose showing up over showing off. Take someone who reads 20 pages every day. Not impressive, right? Anyone can read 20 pages. But 20 pages a day equals 7,300 pages a year. That's 25 to 30 books annually. In 5 years, they've read 150 books while their peers have read maybe 5. Who do you think has more knowledge, more insights, better decision-making ability? The compound effect makes small efforts produce extraordinary outcomes over time. The same principle applies to everything. 15 minutes of daily exercise doesn't seem like much, but it equals 91 hours of fitness per year. That's more than most people exercise in 2 years. Setting aside $50 each week seems insignificant, but it becomes $2,600 annually. $13,000 in 5 years, plus compound interest if invested wisely. Your life operates in seasons, just like nature. There are seasons for planting new ideas, growing your skills, harvesting opportunities, and resting to prepare for the next cycle. Most people fight against their current season instead of maximizing it. They try to harvest when they should be planting. They want to rest when they should be growing. They expect immediate results when they're in a preparation phase. Right now, what season are you in? If you're struggling financially, you're probably in planting season. This isn't the time to expect a harvest. It's time to plant seeds through education, skill development, and relationship building. If you're experiencing success, you might be in harvest season. This isn't the time to coast. It's time to gather resources and prepare for the next planting cycle. Understanding your season prevents frustration and creates focus. When you know you're in planting season, you don't get discouraged by the lack of immediate results. You understand that seeds grow underground before they break through the surface. When you know you're in harvest season, you don't take success for granted. You work harder because you know winter always follows harvest. Every challenge in your life contains an equal or greater opportunity, not hidden somewhere else, right inside the challenge itself. This isn't motivational nonsense. This is mathematical reality. Problems create demand for solutions. Difficulties reveal strength you didn't know you possessed. Setbacks force innovation and creativity that comfort never requires. The companies that thrived during economic downturns didn't succeed despite the challenges. They succeeded because of them. When everyone else was cutting costs and playing defense, they were investing in growth and playing offense. When others saw obstacles, they saw openings. When competitors retreated, they advanced. You can develop this same perspective. Every frustration at work reveals an opportunity to provide value. Every relationship conflict reveals a chance to practice communication skills. Every financial pressure reveals a need to increase your income or decrease your expenses. Every health issue reveals the importance of better daily habits. But here's the key. You must train yourself to look for the opportunity immediately. Not after you've complained. Not after you've blamed. Not after you've felt sorry for yourself. Immediately. The faster you can shift from "why is this happening to me?" to "how can I use this?" the faster you transform from victim to victor. Most people approach life like they're decorating a house with a cracked foundation. They focus on surface improvements while ignoring structural problems. They want better results without building better systems. They want character benefits without character development. They want harvest without planting. Successful people think like builders, not decorators. They know that everything visible rests on something invisible. Their public success rests on private discipline. Their external achievements rest on internal development. Their future results rest on current habits. What does your foundation look like? How are your daily disciplines, your morning routine, your learning schedule, your exercise consistency, your relationship investments, your financial habits, your character development? These invisible elements determine everything else in your life. Building a strong foundation requires different thinking than maintaining what you already have. When you're building, you invest time and energy with no immediate return. You work underground where no one can see your effort.
You focus on systems rather than results. You prioritize consistency over convenience. Most people aren't willing to do foundation work because it's not exciting. There's no applause for daily discipline, no recognition for consistent effort, no celebration for showing up when you don't feel like it. Foundation work is quiet, private, and often invisible to others. But foundation work is where transformation happens. Every morning you wake up early when you'd rather sleep in, you're building discipline. Every time you keep a commitment to yourself when it's inconvenient, you're building integrity. Every time you choose growth over comfort, you're building strength. Every time you respond instead of react, you're building wisdom. Your morning routine sets the tone for your entire day. Most people let their morning happen to them. They wake up to an alarm, immediately check their phone, react to other people's priorities, and start each day feeling behind. They begin in reactive mode and spend the rest of the day trying to catch up.
Your morning routine sets the tone for your entire day. Most people let their morning happen to them. They wake up to an alarm, immediately check their phone, react to other people's priorities, and start each day feeling behind. They begin in reactive mode and spend the rest of the day trying to catch up. Successful people make their morning happen for them. They wake up with intention. They begin with activities that center their mind, energize their body, and clarify their priorities. They start each day from a position of strength, not weakness. They choose their first thoughts instead of letting thoughts choose them. Your evening routine determines the quality of your rest and preparation for tomorrow. Instead of collapsing in front of a screen until exhaustion forces sleep, you can create an evening practice that reviews the day's lessons, acknowledges progress made, and sets intentions for tomorrow. This simple shift transforms sleep from escape into preparation. Your weekly planning session creates strategic thinking in a world of tactical reactions. Most people live week to week with no clear direction, responding to whatever demands the loudest attention. 1 hour of weekly planning prevents 10 hours of weekly confusion. It aligns your daily actions with your long-term goals. Your monthly assessment creates course correction before small problems become major obstacles. Flying a plane requires constant minor adjustments to stay on course. Your life requires the same attention. Monthly reviews reveal what's working, what isn't, and what needs to change. Your annual vision setting creates clarity that guides daily decisions. Without a clear destination, every road seems equally valid. With a clear vision, every decision becomes easier because you can evaluate it against your ultimate objectives. The difference between reacting and responding determines the quality of your entire life. Reacting is automatic, emotional, and often destructive. Responding is conscious, thoughtful, and usually constructive. Between every stimulus and your response, there's a space. In that space lies your power to choose. The bigger that space, the more power you have. You can train yourself to expand that space. When someone criticizes you, instead of immediately defending yourself, you can and ask, is there truth in this feedback that could help me grow? When you face a setback, instead of immediately complaining, you can and ask, what can I learn from this situation? When you feel overwhelmed, instead of immediately panicking, you can and ask, what's the most important thing I can focus on right now? This conscious space between what happens and how you respond, this is where wisdom lives. This is where growth occurs. This is where you develop the inner strength that makes external circumstances irrelevant. Most people live their entire lives at the mercy of their immediate reactions. They let emotions make decisions that reason should make. They allow temporary feelings to create permanent consequences. They give other people's actions control over their internal state. You can choose differently. You can develop the ability to respond from wisdom rather than react from emotion. You can build the strength to maintain your center regardless of external storms. You can cultivate the skill of extracting value from every experience, positive or negative. This internal development, this character foundation, this is what separates those who succeed consistently from those who succeed occasionally. This is what enables some people to thrive regardless of circumstances, while others struggle even when conditions are favorable. The foundation you build today determines the life you live tomorrow. The habits you establish now create the results you'll experience later. The character you develop internally becomes the success you demonstrate externally. This is how transformation really works. Not through dramatic external changes, but through consistent internal growth that eventually reshapes everything around you. It's not always about doing more. Sometimes the greatest transformation comes from doing less on purpose, cutting noise, cutting distractions, cutting what doesn't match who you say you are. Because once you're clear on your standards, the next step is simple: eliminate anything that insults them. Start with your environment. Look around you. What in your space reflects who you're becoming, and what reflects who you've outgrown? That pile of clutter you've avoided, that drawer full of things you don't use, those clothes you keep just in case. Every item holds energy. Either it reinforces your identity, or it robs from it. And you don't rise into your next level surrounded by reminders of a past you're done with. Let them go.
create room. The physical mirrors the mental. When your space is clean, clear, and purposeful, your decisions follow that same pattern. Then comes your habits. Scan your day. What patterns steal time but give you nothing back? What routines feel automatic but empty? If it doesn't fuel your growth, it's a distraction. And most distractions don't show up loud. They arrive quietly, disguised as harmless comfort. Scrolling, snacking, conversations that go nowhere, actions that feel busy but leave you empty. Cut them, not because they're evil, but because you've decided your future matters more than your cravings. Start replacing those moments with something that moves the needle forward. That's the power of implementation, because cutting isn't enough. Once space is created, it has to be filled intentionally, or it'll be filled by default. And defaults are usually the habits you're trying to break. So replace immediately. Trade the scroll for a stretch. Trade the noise for silence. Trade empty multitasking for focused single-tasked execution. The brain thrives on rhythm. Give it a better one.
Elimination doesn't always mean subtracting. Sometimes it means confronting. What conversations are you avoiding because they require courage? What decisions are you postponing because they come with discomfort? Leaving those untouched is its own form of chaos. Clarity isn't passive. It's built through bold choices. That relationship that drains you. That job you've outgrown. That old version of you that people still expect. If it no longer fits, it no longer stays. And yes, some endings will hurt. But staying stuck in a smaller life hurts more. Every time you cut what doesn't serve you, you teach yourself that peace matters. And peace is a practice. It's not something you find, it's something you maintain through decisions. People think saying yes makes them open-hearted. Sometimes saying no is the highest form of love. Love for your time. Love for your future. Love for the version of you that refuses to abandon growth. It's easy to talk about change when you're inspired. But change happens in the repetition. And repetition requires structure. Implementation means creating systems that work even when your motivation doesn't. If you wait until you feel like it, you'll wait forever. Discipline isn't about hype, it's about clarity. Set the rule once and let the rule lead the day. What time do you wake up? What do you consume? What's your non-negotiable movement? What's your recovery plan when life throws a punch? These aren't questions for when it's convenient, they're questions for when life gets loud. Because that's when systems save you. Start building anchors. Morning habits that don't shift based on your mood. Evening closures that prepare your body and mind for real rest. Time blocks that protect your focus. When your day has structure, your mind gains freedom. You don't waste energy deciding what matters. You already decided. And now your job is to live like it. People often ask how to stay consistent. The answer is ruthless simplicity. Complicated systems collapse. Simple ones stick. Don't try to do everything. Pick the few things that matter most and do them daily, no matter how you feel. That's how momentum builds. That's how identity locks in. Because repetition rewires belief. You start seeing yourself as someone who follows through. Not because of one grand act, but because of dozens of small choices stacked on top of each other. And yes, some days you'll fall short. That doesn't make you weak, that makes you human. The key is recovery, not perfection. When you fall, return fast. Don't spiral, don't overanalyze. Realign, and recommit. That bounce back, that's where your power grows. Not in never falling, but in refusing to stay down. And this process eliminating what weakens you, implementing what strengthens you, it's ongoing. You never graduate from it. Because as you rise, the stakes rise, the distractions become more subtle, the noise becomes more persuasive. That's why discipline has to evolve with you. What worked last year may not work now. Stay honest enough to adjust. What used to feel like growth might now be maintenance. And maintenance isn't bad, but it's not where breakthroughs live. Stretch again, cut deeper, refine sharper. This isn't about perfection, it's about alignment. Every action either moves you closer to who you're becoming, or pulls you back toward who you used to be. Eliminate accordingly, implement intentionally, and protect your standards, like your life depends on it. Because in many ways it does. When you're ready, I'll expand the next section smoothly from this point, keeping the same tone and momentum.